So let's talk about how you're communicating with your prospects on your sales calls. This is something that I don't see talked about too often, but can make a huge difference in the level of understanding that your prospects have when you speak to them, right? We want to minimize confusion because confused buyers don't buy, right? We want to get less objections, avoid those I need to think about it. And when you learn this principle, you're going to get less confusion, less objections. People are going to be more excited to move forward with you. And the principle I'm talking about is speaking to people to their level of understanding, right? At the end of the day, you don't want to speak too overly sophisticated for the buyer that's in front of you. But you also don't want to speak too simplistic for certain buyers that are in front of you, right? So if I have a super sophisticated buyer and I'm overly simplistic, sometimes that can be a bit of a turnoff, but more so, I don't worry too much about that. More so, what's most important is not speaking too overly, sophisticated for the less sophisticated buyer. So the sweet spot is I want to meet someone right at their level of understanding so that everything I'm saying is clear, because not every single thing that the prospect doesn't understand, they will make known to you. Usually they will hide the fact and just walk away by being like, you know what, I need to think about this. I need to go over this. I need to spend some more time on this. And you don't necessarily know why they're so adamant about thinking about it, when in reality, the reason why they're saying these things is because they don't understand some of the things you've said, and they are not being honest about it, not being open about their level of understanding of what you're speaking about. Because, who always wants to say, I really don't get the words you used, right? Sometimes people don't want to admit that. So I'll tell you a quick story or give you an example of one thing that I faced a lot of times when I was running a marketing agency. I would get people that were coming to us to have us run their Facebook ads. And sometimes you get people on that have been running ads for months, maybe years, have generated hundreds or tens of thousands or millions of dollars through their ad campaigns. Maybe they've worked with multiple agencies. Maybe they've hired multiple different ad managers, and maybe they've ran ads for a considerable amount of time themselves. Then sometimes you'd get the prospects where they are starting their business for the first time. Maybe they've grown it organically this whole time. They've spent a lot of time using content marketing, just uploading TikToks or YouTube videos or Instagram videos and getting a lot of sales. And they realize that if they need to scale, they need to dive into paid traffic. And they're diving into paid traffic for the first time. They've never ran ads before. They've never even set up a Facebook business manager. They have no idea of what running paid ads look like. So the conversation, although we're probably helping them with the same thing, which is management of their ads, the conversation, the words I use, the terminology I go by is vastly different between those two people. For example, with the more experienced person, I might be saying words like ROAS, which means return on ad spend, right? It's a very common term in the advertising, online, especially Facebook advertising stance, using words like ROI, using words like CBO scale test, using words like scale, using words like split testing, like all of those languages or terminologies are pretty common for someone that has ran ads before. They would immediately understand exactly what I'm saying, exactly what I mean. But for the person that has never ran ads before in their whole life, they've never touched an ad ever, me saying that is going to instantly, possibly confuse them. I might say ROAS. They might not understand what that actually means, and they might not make that clear. And when we move on throughout the conversation, they might just say, you know what, at the end of the call, I need to think about it. Give me some time, because they never understood what I meant when I said I'm going to get them a 3x ROAS, right? So I only want to speak to people to their level of understanding. And that way we can avoid them, giving me false objections or concerns, and or having to, go back and re-explain things that I might have confused them on. Because if they feel like they're confused, or they feel like they're not ready, or they feel like, hey, this is something I can't understand, I'm on with a salesperson who in their mind which is true. The person's incentive to help them move forward. Hopefully they're on with an ethical salesperson who's going to do what's best for them, regardless of whether that's moving forward or not. But not everyone is going to assume that from the person. They're going to sit there with the air or awe of like, hey, this person at the end of the day wants to make a sale, so I'm going to keep that in mind. And this person is also using terminology and language that I don't necessarily understand. So therefore, I need a second opinion. They're saying these words. I need to bring someone in that I trust that's a little bit more unbiased to really understand if this is the right move for me. All because you're using terms that are confusing for them. In that conversation with that newer person to Facebook ads, using that example of advertising, I'm not going to use ROAS. I'm just going to say, I might even just say it out, return on ad spend, right? I might say, I might use ROI if they seem like they might understand. I might use certain terms that just make what I'm trying to say very, very, very clear. And it's why you see a lot of people talk in advertising that they try to write their ads on a third grade level to reach the vast majority of people, because they want people to understand their ad copy, because then more people will respond and click on the ad and so on and so forth. They'll make more money from that advertising because it reaches a wider audience. So keep that principle in mind when you're on sales calls. Speak to people up to their level of understanding, and more people will be less confused. You'll get less objections, and more people will be excited to move forward with the service, and you'll close more deals. Hopefully that helps. I'll see you guys in the next video.